This week on Supercars Talk, we're going back to the wind tunnel and the first wildcard of 2024 has been announced. The big news this week is that Tony Quinn wants to have 2 races in New Zealand, with one of them being an endurance event. Yeah, I mean, this is something that I've kind of been mentioning for quite a while. I obviously don't have the means to make it happen. Tony's in a lot better position as someone who owns a couple of racetracks over there. He can probably pull some strings and make it happen. I really like the idea of making one a sprint and one an endurance event. It really gives some cachet to New Zealand fans. They really get behind the series, and they're obviously a really big crowd. Rounds there are always very well attended. It gives them something special to look forward to, I suppose, and does make a point of difference between the 2 rounds if you did have a sprint and an endurance there, especially because they're talking back to back. I'd probably prefer to see it maybe like a 3-week trip. I'm not sure how that goes with families and things like that, but maybe if you went over there, had the sprint one weekend, had kind of a gap week in the middle where people could get the cars ready for the enduro, have a bit of a kickback and relax, enjoy the sights of the country, and then move on to the enduro before you come back to Australia, possibly for the proper enduro season. Or even if that was something, maybe even it works the other way around later on in the year, kind of after Gold Coast, go over to New Zealand for a couple of, spend November over there in New Zealand, or even, maybe kick off the series over in New Zealand. There is a lot of different ways that this could work. You definitely prefer to try and keep it away from the wetter season, which makes it hard putting it there in the middle of the year, just to try and encourage crowds and that to get there. But I definitely like the idea of going over there for multiple rounds. Obviously, it doesn't kind of work logistically if you're going to go over there for one round, come back to Australia and then go back over there a second time with the cost of flights and everything. So they probably do need to back-to-back them in some form, and then obviously there is a little bit of a jeopardy there if you're going over for an endurance event as well. That something could happen in the sprint event and the cars being quite damaged for an endurance event. Having said that, with Gen 3 and spares and things like that, maybe you could have a chassis sat over there ready to go, that if something did really bad happen, that a team could probably borrow that and set that up as their race car for the second weekend. But there is a lot to unpack on that one, but at least the right person to kind of make a lot of this happen is starting to talk about it. So it's probably not going to happen for next year, but at least there is a bit more noise around multiple rounds getting added to the calendar again next year. Although having said that, early on in 2023 we were talking about a 15-round calendar for 2024, and that never eventuated. In Super 2 news, Max Vidot has announced that he will be contesting the championship with Anderson Motorsports. They were the guys running Zach Best last year, who just fell short of winning the championship. Brendan Hogan will stay on as engineer for that team. He has a lot of main game experience. I think he previously working for Tickford and the Kellys over the years. Max Vidot was in Porsche Cup last year. He's put himself into a good position there to look at the championship. I'll be trying to do a bit more Super 2 reporting this year, so keep an eye out for that as well. Speaking of Super 2, stalwart of the category Matt Charter has announced that he will be doing a full Super 2 campaign again this year. but he will also be looking at doing a 3-round wild card in the main game, much like the Super Cheap Auto one from AAA, where they will do Sandown, Bathurst and a sprint round during the year to get them up to speed and up and racing. They're in negotiations with a few teams at the moment as to how it's going to run. I'd imagine it'll be somewhat similar to the way they did the Bathurst wildcard a couple of years ago now, where it was a Walkinshaw prepared car and then they took over it for the weekend and ran it out of their own team with a bit of assistance from Walkinshaw. But that is actually, I'm really stoked about this, that already we've got 2 wildcards announced for the Enduros, with rumours kind of circulating that there is a couple of other teams that have got extra cars ready. Obviously DJR's got a 3rd car kind of ready there to go. They've got experience in running. Matt Stone Racing talking already about possibly doing something with their 3rd car that they're building up. And yeah, whether any of these are linked with the Matt Charter one, but yeah, Walkinshaw's have been making a bit of noise about it happening, and I'm sure if those guys are all looking at it, most of the other teams are probably looking at it too. So hopefully there's a few more entries in, at least for the endurance races this year. And finally, we're going back to the wind tunnel. The cars were equal, weren't they? I hear you saying. Well, yes, they were when they left, but Ford was unhappy with some of the aesthetics of the car, with the way they'd stuck on some gurney flaps and things like that. So they've wanted to go back to the wind tunnel over there in Carolina to get the aesthetics right, to make it look more like the Mustang road car, and then validate that, you know, it's still making the same figures. I'm more than happy with this happening, that we get it all right, rather than them making changes, not validating them in the wind tunnel, and then there being question marks about it again. I'd prefer to see it be done like this. Obviously, we need to keep the manufacturers happy that the cars are looking the way they want them to look, but we also then need them to be equal on the track. I mean, it's a necessary evil now, and this is, I suppose this is what's going to happen now when any new models come in, which does make it a little bit more complicated. But it should be more a validation thing, I'm hoping, that nowadays we know what the CFD does. We've got the data there from the Camaro and the Mustang. We've validated it in the wind tunnel, so we can do all the CFD work that we've validated, and then, you know, going to the wind tunnel will just be a validation thing, just to double check that everything is kosher, rather than trying to, you know, use the wind tunnel to even them out. So that's the first news show in the bag for 2024. Let me know down in the comments what you think of a double round over in New Zealand. Are you all for it, or would you prefer to see the cars go over to Singapore or some Middle Eastern track that nobody cares about? Until next time, I'm still Dave, and I'll catch you later.